Yeah. What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of The Lion's Den with Seth. If this is your first time on, you're here for a great surprise. Ladies and gentlemen, what we do is we focus on all things leadership, growth, and development with a call to action from the household and out in the community. As a matter of fact, let's talk about the community. Why it is laundry day and what do I put on? Hold on, let me see, because my dang on washing machine is busy right now. I had to put on something to conceptualize what's going on in the season, in the lion season. What's going on? Oh, you see what he did? See? Why you got to act like skin? Come on back, baby. How you doing, everybody? How you doing? Hold on. Danny, how are you doing, ma'am? How's everything?
I am ecstatic. I'm happy about the topic. I'm happy about our guest. And it's Sunday, a nice, fun, chill day, fall weather, fall season. Yeah, I'm happy.
Yes. Hey, Brady, how you doing? Well, welcome, everybody. Hey, what's going on, Herm? How's your weekend going thus far, sir?
It's all right, man. It's all right.
Not a man of few words.
Not you, my friend. Nothing.
Hey, man. Hey, listen. I don't have a pro football team no more, man. The only Titans I remember, Denzel Washington was coaching them. You know what I mean? That's the only Titans I know. You know what I mean?
You got to remember
the Titans I remember, man. But man, weekends good. You know.
How you feel? Feel good. Do you remember that song?
My daughters had homecoming. You know what I mean? And watch them look like grown women.
Ooh,
they were so beautiful. I saw that picture you shared. Yeah, and you talking about you were dressed down, didn't feel comfortable, but that's what you're supposed to be looking like.
No, what I said was that it's hard for my daughters, man, taking a picture next to me because I'm always the most attractive person in the picture.
Incredible.
You know what I mean?
All right.
And so I want my daughters to have their moment, but it's hard to have it when I'm in there. You know what I mean?
That's enough. Hey, Danny, go ahead. So you can go ahead and get this ball rolling. Yes, ma'am.
Let's do it. So today's special guest, Terre Holmes. She is a dedicated advocate for leveraging real estate to create Black wealth, centered on the themes of leverage and legacy. She empowers communities to use property investment as a strategic tool for financial independence. Terre's journey highlights the importance of collaboration and innovative financing, helping others navigate the misconceptions and unlock opportunities in the real estate market. So, with a commitment to inspiring future generations, she aims to foster resilience, financial literacy, and a strong sense of community in her legacy. So, let's bring on the fabulous Terre Holmes.
Hold on. Before we do that, make sure we put some respect on her name. It's Dr.
Dr.
There
Terre
you go.
Holmes. That's
There
right.
you go.
You know what I mean?
There you go. Welcome, ma'am.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Herman, for putting a little respect on it. I'm just playing. Thank you. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate that. And thank you guys for inviting me to the Lion's Den.
Thank you. I just want to say, I thought I knew you for forever. We talked about this a bit offline, but I think it's just the kindred spirit in you. So thank you again for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Terre, why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we get this show rolling?
Cool. So I am a Cleveland native, born and raised. I left Cleveland at 18 years old, went off to college, attended Bowling Green State University, spent a whole lot of money on my education and was never taught anything about financial literacy, independence, real estate investing, any of this stuff. Went on some years later after I left the nonprofit world and got into teaching. So I became an educator in Chicago, went to Northwestern University, became an educator in Chicago, taught for many years in Chicago, loved it, left there, went to Abu Dhabi, taught in Abu Dhabi. And when I came home from Abu Dhabi, you know, once you leave your home country, two things happen. One, I developed a profound respect and appreciation for my own country, but I also, my mind expanded. And once you've been expanded, you can't go back. And so that's just a little bit about me. Left teaching formally in 2015 and got into real estate in 2017. And I've been doing this thing ever since.
Okay. And so that's what's going on. So the topic that we're going to talk about today is leveraging when it comes to real estate investing. Mm-hmm. And different vehicles on how we can get into real estate investing, right? So how did, I know we got some questions that we want to get into. Well, my question is, if somebody wants to get into real estate investing, what is the first thing that should pop into their mind before they get into it?
Well, one of the first things that you need to do is dispel the myths about what it means to get into real estate investing, because you can get into real estate investing a number of different ways. And I've been fortunate enough to learn the creative aspects for getting into real estate, which is how I got in. In 2017, I got my real estate license in Maryland, and I came in to work with investors, but I didn't know what that meant. And I taught myself something called wholesaling, which is a great way for people to get into real estate investing. I taught myself something called wholesaling at the end of 2019, right before the pandemic. And in less than 2 years, working a few hours per month, I was able to make $100,000 working a few hours per month. So that's one of the ways to get in. But I think the first thing you should do if you're thinking about getting in is dispel all of the myths about what it means to be an investor and what it means to get into real estate and what you need to get in. Okay.
Danny?
Yeah, so let's get into it. Leverage and legacy, it's such a powerful theme. Mm-hmm. So what inspired you to focus on building Black wealth through real estate, and how did your experiences shape your mission?
So great question, of course. So what really inspired me, one, I was inspired before I ever knew what it meant to be a real estate investor. I just didn't know it. My grandfather was a business owner. At 40 years old, he started his own trucking business. Okay. And, a lot of people are in trucking now, but he started his own business at 40 years old. He had 9 children by the time he was 40. He had multiple grandchildren by the time he was 40. And he started his trucking business. And I would go to his business and I would see how independent he was. And over the years, I watched him and his independence But what I did not know then that I know now is that my grandfather and my grandparents were also independent because of their ownership of real estate. And so what really got me into this is I got my real estate license in 2017. I also went through a divorce during that year as well. And I started to really study how divorce affects women. And most women many women, I should say, end up in poverty after divorce, because lots of times, even if they're, they're not the heads of households, but even when they are contributing to the households, sometimes they're not making as much money. And when they lose their spouses, they lose a source of income. So I started really studying wealth then. I started studying poverty and wealth and different ways in which women could really overcome their circumstances. Real estate just sort of fell in my lap once I became a realtor. And then when I started to learn more about the investing side and started to see that people who looked like me weren't the ones buying properties from me. They weren't the ones buying in the communities that I knew, the communities where my family lived. It was other people who didn't look like me. And the reason why this was really important to me was because in our communities, it's important for people like us to own the real estate that we live in. If we don't own it, it's important for people who look like us to own that real estate. Why? Because there's a greater sense of concern. There's a greater sense of care that's taken when people who look like us own the real estate in our communities, because they feel a sense of ownership for people who look like them. And so I just started to really just research more and just started to look at my own self. I was selling a lot of real estate to other folks, and I wanted to sell it to my people and teach my people how to invest in real estate.
Right. Seth, you mind if I jump in here real quick?
No, sure, go ahead.
Hey, so question, just so we don't get too far ahead, right? But you mentioned wholesaling. Can you briefly describe to people what wholesaling real estate really means?
Yeah. So wholesaling real estate is actually a very simple concept. Wholesaling real estate means that you get a property under contract with a seller, and you sell the interest in that contract to an investor. That's it. So you're not selling the asset itself, you're selling the contract itself. Okay. And so that is the difference. And so you don't need a real estate license because you're not selling a house. Oftentimes with the properties that I sell, I never see the properties. I never meet the sellers. I never meet the buyers. And I'm not even there on closing day. So I don't even get a check. My money's wired to me. So wholesaling is just, and let me give you another definition and meaning of it. Wholesaling is a way to exit a deal. So I find a real estate deal. The numbers don't work for me, but they work for an investor that I'm working with. And so I sell them my contract.
Okay. So my question is, first of all, again, thank you for being on. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know what we're doing, we're having a conversation on building wealth, right? And by way of real estate. So my question is, ma'am, is it that, or is it true that in order to be a part of the wholesaling contract or to be a wholesaler, that you have to abide by the state's actual rules, right? Because isn't it determined by the location that you're at? And the reason why I say that is because I've heard of that here in the state of Illinois, and it is no longer, you have to have some type of certification in order to do that. So can you dispel that myth, or is that just a fact?
So it's a fact. There are just a few states that don't allow wholesaling. Illinois would be one. Oklahoma would be another, and Pennsylvania would be a third. And then Maryland just changed their law so that only realtors can can wholesale in Maryland. But all of those laws are different. So in Illinois, you can wholesale, I believe it's 2 deals a year. It's 1 or 2. I think maybe it's 1 deal per year. But there are other ways around it. So you don't have to wholesale it. There's another way in which you could do the exact same thing. You make a little less money, but you do the exact same thing, and it's not called wholesaling. So yes, you need to know your state laws. But the thing about wholesaling, and something I mentioned, Seth, earlier, is that I never see my properties. I never meet sellers. I never meet buyers. So you can wholesale what we call virtually. I wholesale virtually. So I wholesale in Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from, but I don't live in Cleveland anymore. So that is one of the myths, is that I have to wholesale, or I can only wholesale in my own backyard, which is not true. You can wholesale anywhere, but you do want to know your city and state laws. So that is super important as well.
Okay.
I want to go to, so any person that I follow and I admire their path and follow them for whatever reason, albeit business, leadership, or finance, I know that mindset is a big part of their trajectory and what kind of transcended and shifted things for people.
Yeah.
So just thinking about mindset, you told us that around the time you got divorced is when you had a reevaluation or had to assess life and then realize that you wanted to take the step forward. So I just wanted to know, like, what was it in you at that time going through a divorce that helped you alter your own mindset? And then in terms of mindset, what kind of mindset should people have who are looking to do creative investing and be in real estate?
So thank you for that question, because mindset is everything. You know, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been divorced, right? But I've heard that both men and women experience setbacks. I've heard some of my male friends say that it's taken them years to recover after a divorce. I think divorce, deaths, loss of employment, those are all things that can break the most secure person. And for me, I experienced all three of those things within a matter of 1.5 years. And so I have always had a very strong will. And so when it comes to, me getting into real estate and thinking about like how my mindset sort of affected that, I knew that as I talked about the statistics earlier, that many women end up in poverty after divorce. I knew that I had to do something different. I had a lot of debt from my student loans, and working a traditional job was not going to pay off that debt. Working a traditional job and doing things the traditional way was not going to help me to propel forward and help other people. Finding something that gave me greater lump sums of money where I could also help people was going to be that thing. And so I heard someone say earlier that you have to be an entrepreneur, which I am. You have to be willing to deal with so much stress, so much pressure, so many ups and downs in order to just be an entrepreneur. Being in real estate, I want you to times that by 2. And so if you're a person who can't really deal with stress, who can't really, manage your own time well, getting into real estate is not the best thing to do, because, and I'm talking about as a wholesaler, as an investor, that's quite different, but as a wholesaler for sure, which is, more of an entrepreneurial endeavor. And so mindset is everything. And I think I probably went off a little bit on what you were asking, but just really focusing on that mindset is super important. And some of the ways that we do that is getting into communities where other people are also focused on their mindset, their growth, and their development.
Right.
That's what I push.
So when you talked about getting into wholesaling, you thought about it because of your divorce and everything, and reading about how a lot of times the ex-wife ends up broke or ends up in poverty. Well, Dr. Terre, my question is this, because I hear all the time, hey, you don't have to have any money to get into wholesaling, right? And from the sounds of it, you said you had a lot of student debt and you're looking for something to give you lump sums of money. What did you start off with, if you don't mind talking about that? And realistically, what does somebody need to have as far as equity or assets in order to get into wholesale? Because I got $3.75 to my name right now. So okay. I'm looking for the come up. You know what I mean?
Okay. So
tell me.
So Herman, let's circle back to the title of this whole thing, right? Leverage. Okay. It's not about how much money you have. It's about how you leverage what you have. So leveraging your relationships, leveraging other people's money, leveraging other people's credit. We don't necessarily know how to leverage those things. And I think it's because I call it money trauma. A lot of times as African Americans, we have money trauma. We have money trauma because people have burned us. We have money trauma because we burned somebody else, there's so much money trauma in our communities. And so we're afraid sometimes to reach into our communities to see where can I leverage someone else's resources in order to get into real estate. So in terms of where I started, when I started wholesaling, let's say I had $500 because I started with a software called PropStream, which, if anyone's interested in that, they can go to my website, terreholmes.com. They can get 7 days free of PropStream. But I started with PropStream. So that was one of my tools that I used. And then I also started with another resource, which is an automation resource that allowed me to automate my marketing. And those two resources were about $200 a month. And then marketing, your marketing budget. So I didn't start with a lot. And I started with the failed listings. So those were listings that the realtors had posted, people who were going to sell anyway, but the realtor couldn't get it sold. So those are called expired listings or failed listings. So that's where I started. And I reached out to those people and I was like, listen, I saw that you had your property on the market. I saw that it didn't sell. Do you still have an interest in selling this property? I mean, Herman, you think that's a hard thing to do?
No.
Right?
No,
So you're calling people from basically expired listings. And so PropStream allows you to do that. Or if you have access to the MLS, you can find expired listings or failed listings through the MLS as well. And so it doesn't take a lot to get started. And one of your guests asked a question. She said, if you had $10,000, could you get started? We're having dual conversations right now, because on one hand, we're talking about wholesaling, but on the other hand, I'm talking about real estate investing, right? So $10,000, think about it like this. If you leverage relationships with other people, and you have 10,000 and you got two more people who have 10,000, that's $30,000, right? So coming into a real estate deal, the average that you have to put down is 20%. So let's just go back. Let's say you got 5 people who give $10,000. That's $50,000. 20%, $50,000. We're talking about 200, 300, a little under $300,000, a $300,000 asset, a little under that, right? So maybe a $250,000 asset. At $250,000, you guys come in with your 50 grand, which is your 20% to get in, plus maybe 5% for closing costs. Now you can get into a property and you're probably like, well, where the heck are we going to get a property for $250,000? You have to go into markets, of course, that have lower thresholds, barriers to entry. So though a lot of those existed pre-COVID, a lot don't exist now. But my point is that you leverage other people's resources, because what you could buy by yourself with $10,000, you could buy so much more if you leverage other people's resources and assets to buy property and get into bigger assets.
So here, and I appreciate that. Thank you for that. The question is, if you don't mind explaining to those that don't know what MLS stands for.
That's the multiple listing service. So the MLS is what realtors use. Yeah. So if you've ever bought a property and a realtor puts you on automated emails and you got like these properties in your inbox, they came from the MLS, and only realtors have access to that. PropStream gives you PropStream pulls from the MLS, and that's why they have access to that information.
One of the things somebody gave me, they said, I want your thoughts on it. As far as how to find properties is the ones that are behind on their taxes. That's about to go into default, like foreclosed homes and whatnot. They say, hey, you should go to the city. They got a list of these houses and start there. What is your thoughts on that?
Oh Lord, you stirring up some trouble right now.
Well, let's get into it. Let's get into it.
And it's Halloween time. You stirring the witch's brew right now. I'm telling you. So, oh my God. Okay, so my cousin this summer, we found out that his house was about to be sold next month in November for taxes. He was behind. He did not know it. He's 83 years old. He hired me to come to Chicago to help him resolve this issue. As it turns out, his neighbor was trying to steal his house, and she changed his address twice, his tax address twice. We found this out. He had to pay $39,000 in back taxes, okay, because a tax buyer was going to get his house for $39,000. Now, the mortgage was still in place, so basically they would have had to keep paying the mortgage. That's one scenario. We figured we solved that problem. However, his neighbor died in 2019. She died without a will, so that means she died intestate. That means to die without a will. She died without a will. She died without her husband because he died before her, or either they were divorced, I think one or the other. She had no children. Her child died before her. Her parents died before her, and all of her siblings died before her. So a tax buyer bought her house on the scavenger list, or on the tax list. It's also called a scavenger list. Tax buyer bought her taxes, and not bought her house, but bought her taxes, because of course the house fell behind in taxes because there were no heirs to basically do something called, they didn't open up probate. We have to open up probate when someone dies in order to have access to their assets. So anyway, her cousin opened up probate, but then her cousin died at the beginning of 2023. Her cousin was going to take over this house. Now, this house is in Hyde Park, Chicago, down the street from University of Chicago. Very, very, let's say it's a very stable community. The equity rises in this community, just a really good community. Her house was paid off free and clear. The after repair value, meaning that after someone comes in and repairs her house, will be worth $500,000. I reached out to her family members of the cousin who died. I reached out to the sons. I said, listen, I will pay you to step into your mother's place and to finish this probate case so that I can buy the house from you guys. Because this investor who's going to get it next month, he's getting it. You ready for this, Herman?
I'm listening.
He's getting it for $39,000.
Right. That happened to a friend of mine.
When we don't, and so this brings me to another point. It's important to know your neighbors, but it's also important to let your neighbors know that you're in the business of buying real estate. So imagine if you knew this woman and you knew she didn't have children and you knew she didn't have a spouse and you developed a relationship with her before she passed away. You put yourself in position for her to sign the house over to you or to sell the house to you so that you are the one who buys her house or gets this asset before she passes away. In this lady's case, she felt like nobody comes to see me. The closest relative I have are cousins. But once you die, it goes through that sort of those different layers, right? Your children, your spouse, your parents, your siblings, then your cousins. So as a cousin, you can actually step up and open up a probate case for someone who has died as long as nobody contests it. So they're getting this house for $39,000 and it makes me sick to my stomach. Sick to my stomach. This is a Black woman and she had her house paid off free and clear, but she left it to no one. So you can go and you can call your county, find out when their tax sales are. So some counties, I think Illinois, Cook County has a tax sale, I think is annually. I think they have 2 every year. And so anything that doesn't sell at the tax sale, it goes to something they call a scavenger sale. So these are the properties that are left over. But they have tax sales every year. Now, mortgage sales are every single week. So I actually just went to a mortgage sale about a month ago downtown Chicago, and the mortgage sales happen every single week because as for mortgages, they don't wait until a year passes or 2 years pass. No, they foreclose when they foreclose. So those foreclosures happen like on a weekly basis. But here's the thing that you can do to get ahead, because I want folks to get ahead. Even when you see those houses and you see them on the tax list, or you see those houses on the mortgage list, you can call the owners and you can strike a deal with them before it actually goes to the auction. See, so many investors don't do that and don't know that. So they wait till it goes to the auction to go and compete with other investors. No, you can jump the line and call that person or go knock on their door. And you can make them an offer if you know how to structure deals. And if you know, and you don't have to have your own money, Herman. You can have some partners who have some money, because sometimes that person's willing to walk away for pennies on the dollar. They're willing to you could give them $5,000 in some instances. Sometimes you can give them $1,000. They don't care, because they're going to lose the house anyway. So it depends on how much they owe, depends on, as long as you can get those things caught up. But there are so many ways to structure these deals.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. What you got, Miss Danny?
I'm into it. So I want to go back to just like leverage, that word leverage, because I know that's a very important word to make that distinction. But then also something you touched upon, leveraging and learning who to tap in with. Some of us don't have, the passage, people perish due to a lack of knowledge. Some of us just don't have that understanding. And then also you pointed out, due to traumas, we don't trust people. So how do you even protect yourself and properly vet the people you're going to go into these contracts with or these long-term commitments with when it comes to real estate? So I know you said you can tap into the MLS, but what about the people who are open to investing and partnering with you?
One of the things that we do as a community is we get together and we talk. We love talking. We talk about the latest, news when it comes to, Bay and Jay and, all these people, right? We talk about sports. We talk about fashion. But imagine if we sat down at the next family reunion, the next cookout, the next whatever big event, and we talked about real estate. We talked about investing, right? What if we did that? Then you will open up some avenues for people to say, I got $40,000 in my 401k just sitting there. I got, some stocks just sitting there. What we believe is that the people that we're talking to don't have money, because sometimes we don't have money. And we believe that all the people around us don't have money. No, your cousin got some money stacked away somewhere. Your friend has some money tucked away somewhere. Just because people aren't talking about it doesn't mean they don't have it. And so that's the first thing that we could do, is to start having conversations, right? It's okay to play spades, but put the cards to the side and have a conversation about, hey, my neighbor has this house I'm thinking about buying. I'm looking for somebody to invest with me. The best way to overcome trust is to get into partnership with people you trust. Man. Get into partnership with people you're already having conversations with. So what about people at your job that you've been on your job 5, 10, and 15 years? Y'all like each other. Y'all know each other. Y'all trust each other. They got a little money to the side. You got a little money to the side. We have to start having different conversations at the lunch table, at the card table, at the dinner table. We have to start having conversations, and that's what helps us to leverage.
Right. That is, I don't know why that conversation is so hard to have with me and my friends, right? Like, I got friends that I've been rocking with since I joined the Air Force, and we talk every day, right? But we talk about nothing. It's like as soon as we try to get to the conversation about investing, then people's egos get in the way, it seems. You know what I mean? It's like we can't never, like, I can have that conversation with Seth, and the conversation will go somewhere. You know what I mean? But it's like a lot of times people's egos get in the way and stop them from having that conversation. Or like you talked about financial trauma, right? You know what I'm saying? People start like, man, I don't trust it. You know what I mean? Somebody came to me with an investment idea during COVID, and I was like, oh, hell no, I ain't messing with y'all. You know, and they did well off of it, and I missed out, but it's like you scared to take that chance.
Scared money don't make no money.
I knew you was going to say that.
You already know. Scared money don't make no money. You set it up. You said, right? I was afraid to take that chance. Scared money doesn't make any money. Number one. Number two, we have to be okay with keeping some of these conversations amongst like kind.
Okay.
Every conversation is not for everybody. And trying to convince your friends and your family of something that you know can work, I would spend my time learning, growing in communities with other people who are learning, growing, and want to do this, as opposed to trying to spend my time trying to convince someone else that it's a good thing to do. So your friend did that. Instead of him trying to convince you that it was a good thing to do, he went and found somebody else who was of like kind, right? And it worked for him. So you have to also be willing to do that. So many times we want to pull up our family members, our friends, but they're not the ones for this. And I was at church recently. He was talking about that vision. God didn't give the vision to everybody. He gave it to you, right? And then that vision perhaps resonates with someone else, but they may not be in your circle yet. So what do I say to you? You got to go find a new circle. You got to get into rooms where people are having the same conversations as you. You have to get into rooms where people want the same things you want. And when they're not afraid, they've already worked through their trauma of money. They've already worked through their fears. You have to get into different rooms.
You know, we talk about this. We talk about this often. And me and Herm, we do talk about it. And a lot of it is a lot of talk, but we know that it's in a safe space, right? And I would say a lot of times we know what we want to do, but we also know the responsibilities of the things that we're currently doing. Okay. So that means that even if it is a dream that we would love to entertain, it's with like-minded people, right? It's with a like-minded person that can understand. So to your point, I would like to add that it's important to know your place, right? Because I'm a visionary and a doer. But then Herm, he has a different gift, right? And so I believe individuals should be very cognizant of the individuals, not only what they do, but the conversations that you have. And those individuals need to know that everyone has a role to play. Not everybody's going to be the quarterback. That doesn't happen that way. Not everybody's going to be the running back. But if you can focus and prioritize on your own individual gifts, and if you can really have a good dynamic, or team dynamics, then the whole team can get the Super Bowl, so to speak, versus one person making a score.
That's a great point that you make, because I co-host a real estate investment meetup just outside of Washington, D.C. called the Cash Flow Breakfast Club. And one of the things we do within the meetup is we ask people to identify what role they play within the deal, right? So there's the deal maker. That's the person who goes and finds the deal. Okay. Well, we call that the deal finder. That's the person who goes and finds the deal. Then there's the deal maker. That's the person who puts the deal together, right? Because sometimes the deal finder and the deal maker is not the same people. And then there is the money person. The deal finder may find the deal maker may know how to structure it, but neither of them may have money. So then you have the investor, the money person. So to your point, you have to know where you fit in that. And if we have two deal finders, no deal makers, no money, we don't have a deal. Okay. So one of the things that's important is even with you and Herman is also identifying maybe we're two visionaries and or doers, but we got to go find the person with the money. Or maybe, and I wanted to sort of go back to something Herman said that sort of ties in. Sometimes the reason why our friends aren't getting on board is because they see us talking, but they don't see us doing enough. Our people are from the show me state, all of them. Every last one of our people are from the show me state. And if we can't show them the progress, show them that we're out here doing it, give them the receipts, then they're skeptical. So now, Herman, when you say that guy, I didn't do it, but he did well, he showed you. So maybe the next time he comes around with the deal, now you're like, you know what, I'm jumping in because I trust him now. He's shown me. So yeah, you have to identify who you are in the deal and then go identify those other people you need in order to make the deal happen. There's a house next to your mama that's vacant. There is a house on your cousin's street this for sale by owner. You could pick up the phone and start calling these people. And because you're 1 to 2 degrees of separation, between you all, they're going to trust you more. So that's where we begin.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So here, let me throw this in here from Miss Patrice. She asked, so what would you say was your biggest loss in the wholesaling market?
Not doing enough deals.
Yeah. But you can't really take a loss in the wholesaling, can you?
Yes, you can. You can take okay. Not doing enough deals when deals were hot. During COVID, when I first came in, that first year and a half, deals were crazy. Like everybody was selling. There was so much on the market at that time. And, I would say that was a big loss because you can't, but then some people say, you can't miss what you can't measure. Right. But I'm like, listen, every time you don't take a chance, you're losing. Okay. You're losing. Every chance you don't take is a loss to me. So that's one thing. But secondly, what was my biggest loss in wholesaling? Like Herman said, you can't really lose in wholesaling. Here's the thing about it. Here's how you don't lose. When you put someone's property under contract, you have a certain amount of time to perform due diligence. Typically for me, that's about 14 to 21 days of due diligence, 14 days more so. After that due diligence period, your money becomes hard. So it's called your EMD, which is your earnest money deposit. Mm-hmm. It becomes hard, meaning that you can't get it back. Okay. So sometimes if you structure it well, or you know how to have conversations with your sellers, you may put down $10. You may not put down anything, but typically we'll say, okay, $10. But sometimes you have savvy sellers who are like, listen, I need you to put down $1,000. Well, sometimes if the deal is much bigger, you're putting down 10,000. You're putting down 20, 30,000. You have to make sure you know when your money's going to go hard. And if you know that you can't move that contract, you got to back out of that deal before your money goes hard. So that's how you mitigate your risk and make sure that you don't have big losses.
Okay.
But I don't want to just talk about wholesaling, because wholesaling is a way to sell other people's real estate. I really want to get it because I know some of your viewers are questioning, how do I buy real estate? And you can use wholesaling as a way to buy real estate. And so I'm actually creating a community called Club Maximize, teaching people, Black and brown men and women, how to maximize their money through real estate investing. And so that's really what I want people to think about. You don't want to just be, wholesaling. Wholesaling is just a means to an end to get to being an investor.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more. Why should an individual think about being a part of the community that you're starting up, or like what would be the benefits? You can speak on that.
Absolutely. So one of the things is that I have access to people that most people don't have access to. When we talk about what are the conversations you have sitting around the dinner table, typically we're not having meaningful or deep conversations, or when it comes to like finances and money and real estate, because of the people that we have sitting around our dinner table. Well, for me, I have those types of people sitting around my dinner table, and I have access to those people. So this community is about giving people like us, like me as well, who wouldn't normally have access to these types of conversations, having ongoing access to these types of people and conversations. And the thing about that access is that many of the people I'm talking about, they don't look like you and I. They don't look like Seth. They don't look like Herman. They don't look like Danny or myself. They don't look like us. So that's number one, you get access. Number two, you get to be in community with someone like myself, who I haven't just sold real estate. So I'm not just I used to be a real estate agent. So I know the business from a real estate agent's perspective, but most real estate agents don't know what I know. Most real estate agents will tell you that they don't know what I know. So you're able to be in a community with someone like myself, who has been on both sides of this, but more importantly, who's been on the side for the investor. someone who knows how to craft deals, because that's what it, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, crafting the best deals. And I'll give you a perfect example. One of my exes came to me to help him sell his house in Baltimore. The problem with him coming to me to help him sell this house in Baltimore is that he did not come to me when he bought it. He was coming to me now because he basically was sort of upside down in this deal. He had overpaid, over leveraged himself in this deal. And what was happening was that he was not making the amount of income on it that he should have been making in this investment deal. He was making, so what investors look for, if I buy a asset, I want to be making 1% or more of the I want my rent to be 1% or more of the purchase price. So if I buy an asset for $100,000, my rents need to be $1,000 a month, right? So $100,000 all in, that means acquisition, renovation, closing costs, whatever. It needs to be $1,000, 10%, not 10%, 1% of the acquisition cost. He had bought this property for $375,000 and his rents were like $2,000 some dollars. You see how that's off already? Right? So having someone who understands what the numbers look like is super important. But thirdly, for me, Seth, for me, Herman, this is not about Terre Holmes getting rich off of teaching people how to get into real estate. This is about Terre Holmes leaving a legacy behind that teaches people how to get into real estate and teaches people how to hold on to their own real estate.
So speaking on that, in the beginning, how would you recommend somebody build that network when it comes to wealth building through real estate? Where should they look and how should they start?
So whether they decide to join my community, they should join a community. They should join a real estate. There are RIAs, real estate investment associations, all over the country. They could join a RIA. Typically, there's a fee for RIAs, but there are lots of RIAs. They should join a meetup. Sometimes for real estate investing, there is a fee for meetups, but I know that the meetups in the Cash Flow Breakfast Club meetup that we do just outside of DC, that one's free. So you should look at joining meetups, but you should also look at going into real estate groups online. On Facebook. Don't just use Facebook to find out, what people are doing in their spare time and what they cooked and where they went. Use Facebook as a means to educate yourself and to get into groups where people who are going to school you and teach you for free. So you can go into those groups and ask tons of questions about real estate investing, and they circle around and they really pour into newbies in a lot of these different groups.
Okay.
And then YouTube University.
Right. YouTube anything. I'm a surgeon off of YouTube.
YouTube. I just hope you're not practicing in real life.
Hey, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I became an electrician, almost killed myself, but it's all good.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So so joining community. I learned everything I know from communities. I learned wholesaling from, there's a guy named Max Maxwell.
I follow him.
Yeah, Max is living over in Africa now. Because Max taught wholesaling and he did nothing but wholesale, and then he started buying real estate. Now he's a developer in Africa. Yeah. And so I started learning within his community, and I started watching his videos, and I watched King Kong, who's an Asian guy, on TikTok. I love his TikToks, and he teaches about wholesaling and real estate and investing. And so go into communities, use your social media to educate yourself, because everything you need is right at your fingertips.
Yeah, Max Maxwell, he's an Air Force veteran too.
Yeah. And so ladies and gentlemen, there's another thing too I want to jump in on, how important it is to widen your aperture for the individuals that you are building within your team. Just because they don't look like you do not mean that they don't want you to succeed. It's very, very important to vibe with the right tribe, right? And to find that, and it's the whole skin folk is not all kin folk. Believe that. And so if there's individuals that are able to help you along your journey, see that as what it is, right? Don't get so caught up with the messenger. What is the message, right? They may have some news that you can use, but you're expecting it to come in a specific package that's more palatable, right? Mm-hmm. So I will encourage you, even no matter who it is or what it is, are you on the same page? That's the thing, right? Focus on your frequency as well. Your frequency will be a attribute to your financial literacy, right? And then it can excel as well. Miss Danny, what you got, ma'am?
Yeah, this has been such a rich conversation. I know we're coming to a close very soon. I just want to know, are there markets that are like really hot right now in parts of the country that we're not aware of, specifically for wholesaling?
So here's what I want. I want to just sort of mention something that Seth said, which is so important. Mostly everyone who gave me my opportunity in real estate and who taught me, they didn't look like me. Either they weren't female, they were male. They weren't black, they were white, they were Asian, they were Latino. They didn't look like me. And that's part of the mindset. You got to get out of your own way, because if you are only comfortable in your own skin and with skin folk, you will miss the people who really are your kinfolk in this business because they don't look like us. So that is super, super important what he said. And I just had to just give him some, yes, thank you for saying that. And so Danny, you asked me, are there markets that you should focus on? Here's what I would tell people to do. If you're just getting started, number one, I'm just going to be for real. Get on the wait list for my community. That's number one. But number two, don't look at markets, look at your backyard. If you've been living in your neighborhood, if your parents have been living in their neighborhood for quite some time, you all know the neighbors, Mrs. Johnson, she's getting older. You don't know exactly what she's going to do. You can broach that conversation. We got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable with uncomfortable conversations, because you don't know if Miss Johnson, just like the woman down the street who didn't have a will, who didn't leave her house to anybody, you may be next door to a Miss Johnson, okay, who is going to leave that house, and some scavenger sale, some investor is going to go and buy it for pennies on the dollars. Go knock on your neighbor's doors. Go knock on your sister's neighbor's doors. Go knock on your mama's neighbor's doors, your cousin's neighbor's doors. Go knock on their doors. Talk to them. Find out, hey, who owns that abandoned lot across the street? Find out, hey, that house looks like it's been empty. Ask your parents, ask your siblings, ask people. Are there houses on your street that have been sitting for a while that are vacant? Nobody lives in them. And if you don't know how to move the deal, I'll help you move the deal. So you share the deal with me. Whatever I make on the deal, I'll give you 50% off of it. The very first deal I did, I made $6,500. Since then, I have not made anything less than $10,000 per deal. So you do the math. But if you have a deal, and it has to be a viable deal, right? And I don't want, people bringing deals to me they haven't really done their due diligence on, but go knock on doors, go talk to people at work, at school, wherever you are. That's where you find your first deal. You don't need to be concerned with what markets are hot. Go find your deals that way.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wow.
So what are some of the most overlooked resources that people could tap into when starting real estate investing with limited funds?
So one of the most under-tapped resource, one is your 401k. They want you to use your 401k. Like, they want you to be using this money. Some people even have insurance policies that have cash values. Pull it out, use it to invest. Another untapped resource, like I said, are family and friends. You can't tell me that every person in your circle doesn't like you, doesn't trust anybody. So tap into your family and friends. My very first property that I bought, my grandmother lent me the money for it. So tap into your family, your friends, tap into those resources. Those are some of the untapped resources. Other untapped resources, like I said, is just knocking on your people's door. Right? And you imagine going into and for particularly for those people who live in blighted neighborhoods or live in the inner city, everybody's not comfortable going knocking on those doors, but you might be, and you might be the one who hits a gold mine, hits the riches in your own backyard. So those are the untapped resources.
Yeah.
What you were saying, Herb?
I mean, I'm good in any hood. You know what I mean?
All right.
So, you know what I mean?
Sound like that's it. All right. There we go. Anyway, but no, I do appreciate that. That makes a lot of sense. And then I also do believe, let's be completely honest, individuals are afraid. And it's not that it's something that they're afraid of because they have tried it, but it's the risk, Okay. And sometimes what they have to be able to do is understand that if the juice is worth the squeeze or not, because the way that the economy is right now, in certain situations, things in the last 3 years have went up over 500%.
Yes.
So it means individuals currently are in a financial bind to the point where one tire on their car that goes out, that can be a decision between getting that tire fixed and eating, or keeping your lights on, right? So not everyone has that that intellectual property, or no, the comfortability to say, you know what, I want to go ahead and forego this amount of money. So it takes a little bit more than, hey, scare money don't make money. That is true. But it takes an opportunity and the willingness to take a step and to see what you can do instead of not doing anything. So I just want to make sure that's important.
Here's the thing, and I cannot think of his name. Myron Golden. Myron Golden said there are 3 types of people when it comes to money, right? The poor. The poor believes that the money they get in is meant to pay their bills. Okay, that's what the poor believe. I'm supposed to make money so I can go pay bills. So they will never ever escape that mentality, because that's what they believe money is for. Then you have the middle class. They believe that I make money and I keep my credit good so that I can then go acquire things on credit. Okay, and then they spend their money paying off the credit, but also having good credit is very, very important to them. And they don't have good credit, so they can take that good credit and go leverage. When we talk about leverage, did you know that when you're looking at real estate, especially as an investor, the property is going into your LLC, is not going into your personal name. But you can also have what they call a credit partner. So if you have somebody in your circle who has good credit and you don't have good credit, but you have some money, you leverage their credit, they leverage your money. Now you have an asset that you buy together, right? The money's not coming from you, because there's something called an equity partner. So you go and get the money from somebody else and they become an equity partner in the deal. That's leverage, right? So we have to understand that there are multiple ways to get into real estate that don't require your money, your credit, or even your income, because you can leverage the fact that somebody else has been on their job longer. And so all of you guys are in the deal, but in different ways. But Myron Golden said, the last thing are the wealthy. The wealthy people don't look at using the money to pay off bills. They don't look at the money or the credit as, I want the credit so I can go acquire things. Mm-hmm. They look at, how can I use my money, leverage my money to make more money. Mm-hmm. So if you became a craftsman of your money every month and you knew, I can put this bill off for 2 weeks, I can go and invest in this, and I can double that money. That's what drug dealers do. And I'm not promoting drug dealing. I'm saying drug dealers flip money. You have to become a flipper of money, and you got to understand how much of a risk you can take, right? Where you should come in. Maybe you should come in at wholesaling because it doesn't require as much money. Or maybe if you're comfortable enough having conversations, you go and leverage other people's money, other people's credit, other people's experience. So you just got to know. So fear is obsolete. Fear, false evidence appearing real, because you don't have to use any of those things you've been told you had to use to get into real estate.
That is true. That is true. But I would also like to say, towards the end of that program with Byron, he talked about also it's about your mindset and also about being coachable. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is coachable. So another acronym for fear is a false emotion appearing real. So the deal is those emotions that I have are real, but if I'm not willing to have a coach, right? Because we can always say all you have to do is, but it's not all I have to do. How do I do it?
Yes.
Because it's not about the information. Please, ladies and gentlemen, understand it's not about all the information. It's about transformation. How are you able to take a person from point A to point B and go along with them in that process instead of just talking, right? Running off at the mouth and just burning calories talking and not going anywhere because this individual has not made a transformational change inside. Right. Yes. So so it is a process. It's a maturation, if you will. So we have to be able, as being coaches, understand where the individual is to be able to meet them where they are, and then to see if they can even conceptualize the next step. Because other than that, they just want a paycheck.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because I have no desire to work with everybody. I have no desire to have everybody in my community. I have a desire to have people in the community who are of like mind. And like mind for me is you don't see scarcity, you see abundance. That is so because you see abundance, you don't mind working with and growing with and learning from other people. That's the first thing. I don't have any issue. So those are the things that are important to me, right? That we are of like mind.
Mhm.
And like you said, I don't want to work with people who aren't coachable. So those people have to know within themselves first before they come, are you coachable? And then it's my job to help them to identify if they're coachable or not. But you are absolutely right. Being coachable is key.
Absolutely. Well, go ahead, wrap it up for us, Big Herm. What you got, man?
Dr. Terre, man, I really appreciate this conversation. You really did drop a lot of knowledge for folks when it comes from everything from leveraging to wholesale to just about how to get started when it comes to investing, and particularly into real estate. You know, I mean, I found value in this conversation. I learned something in this conversation. I'm sure a lot of people that was listening did too. So I just want to thank you for coming on. Yeah, appreciate you coming on. And just leave the last words for you so you can let everybody know where to find you at.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm just now seeing the chat here. Thank you, Camille and Patrice and everyone who participated today. If you want to know where to find me, go to terreholmes.com. Join my email list, find out, when things roll out. I'm just creating a wait list right now. Nothing is open. But that's where you find me. I'm on social media as Terre Holmes. So at Terre Holmes, on Instagram and on TikTok, do a lot of educational videos there as well. So please join my email list. Let's get connected. Let's get a community together. Look for opportunities to come and speak at churches and women's groups and organizations as well, to spread the good word. So thank you guys for allowing me in the Lion's Den.
Yes,
Most
representing
definitely.
real well. Thank you
Most
again.
definitely. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you soon. And hopefully you take care of each other and think about all the things that we talked about today and find out where you are in that conversation. Right on. Later.
Right on.